Hey guys, Tyler Tolman here, and today I'm going to be sharing a little bit about passion, something I know a lot about because I have lots of things that I'm passionate about. And then I have kind of one main overview subject of that I'm really passionate about, and I've been living for the last couple of decades, and that's health in general, mental, emotional, physical, anything having to do with health and vitality and longevity, fasting, whole foods, seven principles of health, long live cultures, ancient Egypt. There's a lot of things that I'm passionate about. But within so many different genres, it comes back to how can I perfect my own body, mind, spirit, grow, evolve. So I'm very clear on what my passion is, and there's little niches within that overview of health that I'm also super passionate about, like fasting in general, lifestyle, intermittent fasting, things like this, anything that leads to longevity. It's kind of like this biohacking. That's what I'm really interested in. But I want to talk about passion, and I really hope to be able to inspire you and help you to discover your passion in the short little bit of time that we actually have. So passion is one of the seven principles of health. When we look at it here, we got the symbol of fire. Now, we have these seven principles of health that all of the longest lived cultures have in common. And I would say that passion is one of the most important. And the reason I say that is I know of people, and I know of people that have lived their whole lives probably doing everything against the seven principles, like when it comes to air, smoking, water, don't drink it, exercise, don't move their bodies probably like they should, whole foods, what's that? Don't know what that is. Total relationships, no good relationships whatsoever. Like all of the principles, they don't do it, but this one, some people have just this fire and this passion, and they're so excited. They don't think about drinking water. They don't think about exercise, sunshine. They're just like, they're only about their passion, and they'll live a long life. And so when I actually see the word passion, I see it in different parts. And I just want to point this out for you guys. So when I see this, I see it as passing ions. If I could put a little mark in there, passing ions. When I'm doing something I love, something I'm passionate about, it's like there's this electrical energy, there's this force, there's this passing of ions that energizes and somehow nourishes the body in some way and just keeps it going. It's like this electrical force. And when I'm on stage, especially like speaking to people, when I'm doing what I love, teaching like I'm doing now, I love learning things that I'm really interested in, and I love teaching things. And I love articulating in a simple way. I like taking like advanced science and then just being like, hey, it means this, and coming up with some simple little things like, yeah, this is what we do about it, rather than having to try to understand and make things even more complicated, which a lot of people do. And what I'd like to say is that I truly believe if you just do the things that you really love, find your passion, or find the few things that you're passionate about, you really dedicate your life and you take the time to do these things, you'll figure out over time of passing these ions, learning so much through the process of just being passionate. I'm so passionate about learning about fasting. Eventually I learned so much, I start to apply it. I gain the wisdom, I fast, I inspire other people to fast. I'm fasting with them. I learned so much that eventually I pass I on. So this is like, then I have enough skill, enough wisdom and knowledge to pass the information that I've downloaded and really gain the wisdom of. It's no longer just reading a book. It's like, I am the book, and I have a unique perspective that is going to interest people. And you got to understand that, I'm just a dude, no specific special qualifications or anything else. I'm just somebody who's super passionate about health and fasting and all these things, and committed my life to being about that work. And over time, through the process, learn so much, gain so much wisdom that when I speak to it and I share, it's coming from a place of experience, and people can feel it. And people are willing to spend a lot of money to come and be in my presence and have me facilitate this process of growth and detoxification and regeneration, and around all the type of like-minded people that I bring into my space. And I'm able to teach in a way that's just very simple yet really profound and gets results. And I'm saying this because you can do the same. Whatever it is you really love, you just get into it, you dig into it, you read about it, you watch videos about it, you do it. You gain the understanding, you have perspectives and insights and things, and you develop a model that becomes your own. You become the brand of whatever this thing is. And literally, I know people who just love riding bikes. And you might be like, well, how are you going to make a living just riding bikes? It's like, well, this guy just decided he's going to ride a bike, and that's all he ever did was ride a bike pretty much all day, every day. He just loved it, traveled, rode his bike everywhere. But he got downloads and just all this stuff happens while riding a bike. He starts posting YouTubes about the bike. Then he starts posting YouTubes about conversations and depression and mental health and all these things. Before you know it, he's getting paid like 15, 20 grand a month from YouTube. This is what I mean. Just do what you're passionate about. Do it. And everything changes. And you gain the understanding and the wisdom. Instead of maybe going and trying to get a job and trying to be passionate about somebody else making a bunch of money, you getting paid just a little bit, you might get really good at that. You could do that your whole life, no problem. But imagine if it was something that you really loved and you cultivated your own experience of that thing and offered that gift to the world. I really do believe it's why we're here. So passion is why we're here. And I have just a simple little drawing that I want to do that I think will give you some insights. And the question right now is, what are you passionate about? And what I would recommend is sitting down and asking yourself a question. What are the things that I really love? What really sets me on fire? When I go to a party and I'm having conversation, what are the conversations I'm like, oh yeah, I want to be a part of that. I want to have that conversation, or I at least want to listen because I love listening into that type of whatever's being discussed. Or whenever I'm talking to somebody, we end up talking about this because this is where I'm going to take the conversation. This will inform you what you're really passionate about. If you had a 10,000, 100,000, a million extra dollars, and you couldn't spend it on bills and taxes and bullshit, you had to just spend it on something you loved, what would that be? What would you do with the money? And these things will start to inform you as to maybe what your passion actually is. Now, there's a drawing and an experience that I got from Buckminster Fuller, and I'm just going to draw it. So if you can, while you're watching this, just see if you can kind of guess what this is. Maybe you've seen this before. Plus, just realize that I'm definitely not an artist. But if you can kind of imagine what this is, and then when you have it, just say it out loud. I know it's just a recording, but just say it out loud anyway. Okay, so this is a bee. I'm not really sure how many legs they have. I'm not a bee scientist, and my picture here is not looking that great, but I'm trying to draw like a happy bee. Okay, so you got this bee. What does a bee do? A bee goes out and it searches for what? What does the bee search for? And you're probably thinking by now, oh, it's a flower. Okay, great. It's a flower, yes. And why does the bee go to the flower? And this is where most people make a huge mistake. So why does the bee go to the flower? Most people say the bee goes to the flower for pollen. And that's actually incorrect. The bee does not go to the flower for pollen. And Buckminster Fuller talked about this process called precession, a precessional effect. And what the bee is actually doing is what it's passionate about. The bee is actually passionate about going to the flower. Why? Because the flower is absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful. It smells amazing. And he's probably just flying along and sees these flowers like, wow, look at that. And he starts down in his little sacred geometrical pattern of landing, which is based on phi. And he goes into this flower, and the flower has something to offer. The flower actually has nectar. And this nectar is some of the most beautiful tasting nectar you can possibly imagine. And you probably don't have to imagine, because what the bee does is it drinks this nectar, fills its happy little belly, It's got tons of energy from this nectar. And then it goes back to the hive. We've all seen those beehives with all the different layers, whatever it's got in there. It goes back into the beehive and it makes this little honeycomb shape and it deposits the nectar and makes honey. So what honey actually is thousands and thousands of flowers and the collecting of the nectar from those flowers. And the bee is just doing what it's passionate about. It's passing ions through its body, doing what it loves. And just by doing what it loves, it's fed. It gets everything that it needs, it's fed, and it's receiving its bliss. And if you ask yourself, what is the purpose of a bee? And the word purpose literally comes from pure position. When a bee is living its passion, it's in a pure position. When it's in a pure position, it's fulfilling its purpose. Its purpose here on earth. Do you think the bee is asking, oh, what's my purpose in life? What am I meant to do? I'm a lost bee. No, the bee isn't asking what its purpose is. It's not trying to fulfill its purpose. In fact, it just does what it loves. It loves to be passionate about coming up and drinking the nectar of all these flowers. But what happens as this processional effect of just doing what it loves is it pollinates. And in fact, the process of the pollen is probably the annoying stuff. Meaning the bee goes in there, he drinks the nectar, he's loving it, and it gets all this pollen stuck to it. And if the bee could, it'd just be like, man, I got to get all this pollen off of me. I don't like this stuff. It's stuck to me. It would probably just get rid of it. It's actually probably annoying, but then it flies to another flower. Some of that pollen goes into that flower. It pollinates. This is the sexual process of flowers between plants. This is how they mate and fruit and do everything they're meant to do. So if you really think about that, instead of trying to think about, how you can fulfill your purpose, how you can, be of service to humanity and people in general in your community, which I think is great. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great to, be of service and help people and all these things. But what if you have a design and if you just stuck to your design and you were living your passion and loving your life and feeding your cells, getting your nectar, that's actually what's going to contribute to honey to the rest of the community. What if? Because I believe it is that way. I believe there's millions and millions and millions of people running around that are not passionate, haven't found their passion, or don't believe that they can actually just do what they love. They believe they have to work or do that or go do, whatever, donate their time, be of service to get some fulfillment. But if they actually realize if they just did what they really loved and stuck to that enough, their vibration would change, everything would change, and they'd be of the greatest service to their community because of that. Just by being happy, you're of the greatest service to your community. Everywhere you go, you have a smile, you're projecting some light, etc. And your purpose will be fulfilled. And what's really interesting for me is I love to learn, I love to teach. That's my passion. And what I'm not so passionate about is every time I get up on stage or I'm talking to people, I get the same questions. Imagine 10 years in a row, people asking me how to do the colon cleanse and how to eat it properly. People asking me about toenail fungus. People asking me questions about everything that I've answered 10,000 times in the past. That's like my pollen. I'm just going to get my honey, experience and live my passion. But then people are constantly asking me these same old questions. But the thing is, I recognize that that's probably me fulfilling my purpose. Is that's the pollen. It's like, okay, here's the same colon cleansing question again. Here's the same question about acne. Here's the same question about that. But every single time I realize that that's probably the purpose that's being fulfilled. So every time I get the question, I act as if it's the first time I've been asked that question. And I really give it the time and space that it deserves, because maybe, just maybe, I can radically impact this individual in my community in a way that causes some kind of change. Maybe I can help them get rid of the toe fungus. Maybe I can help them do the colon cleanse correctly. Maybe I can help them get rid of acne. And in doing so, they may be relieved of that stress and that pain and be able to find their passion, come back for something far greater. I hope this is making sense. And the key here is to focus on your passion, and your purpose will be fulfilled. And so to identify your passion, you might ask yourself over your lifetime, what are the jobs or the things that stood out the most? Where did you have the greatest connection? What were you doing when you really loved life? And could you actually create your own stream of that for yourself? And if it's something that you really loved, but you didn't maybe love doing it for somebody else, could you actually create it for yourself? And if you created it for yourself, how much more enjoyable to support other people working with and for you in that process? And the truth is you can, if you choose to. If you choose to master something, you can go out and you can do it yourself, and you can do just as good or better if you commit to that process. When have you felt the best from what you are doing? What did you love doing as a child? And your passion doesn't have to be something that's a career, okay? Not all your passions do. You could love just riding a bike. I love jujitsu. I love motorbikes. I love jet skis. I love skydiving. I love all these different things. Some I'm going to do a lot, some I'm going to do a little. And I'm always going to explore. Go try axe throwing. Go try bow and arrow. Go try roller skating, go try singing, go try playing the guitar and these different things and putting time and see how I feel. Wow, I really love this. I love the competition. Oh, I love the feeling of the music, whatever it is, constantly putting myself into situations of getting nectar from new flowers, not just sticking to the same flowers, but trying new flowers. And it's the diversity of all the flowers and the nectar that really creates the honey. And then purpose is fulfilled for multiple genres. So what did you love doing as a child? What did you love doing as a teenager? There's probably some things you did back then that if you went back and did it again, you'd be like, wow, put a smile on your dial, help you to feel good. And then doing that a little bit more and consistent. How can I consistently do these things that I love? Not make it a job, but do it out of the situation of love and make it a habit. It's so easy as human beings to create habits that maybe are taking us down the wrong track. So really assess, is this habit good for me in some way and fulfilling? Okay, because there can be habits that we perceive, oh, I shouldn't do this, this is really bad, but maybe you're being fulfilled in some way that's actually good, and just allow yourself to have that little habit, doing that thing that you're passionate about, but make sure you're doing other passions. And especially when it comes to making money, I believe every person's life goal should be focused on what can I do for the rest of my life and create that I'm really passionate about. And that's either for yourself, or it could be with others, or as a career, job, whatever, as long as you really love it and your soul is being fed. Thank you guys for watching. I hope I've inspired a little bit about finding your passion and doing more of it. Have a beautiful day. And I'll see you in the future when I'm living my passion.